Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is smell. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you might hear smell used is to mean to be aware or to detect the odor or scent of something or someone. And I want to call everyone's attention to two of the words used in this particular definition. The first word, odor, generally has a negative meaning. So we're talking about detecting something that does not smell pleasant, or really that just smells bad. But when we use the word scent, many times this has a more positive meaning, so that there is a pleasant scent, a pleasant thing that we are detecting with our nose. A second way you'll hear the verb smell used, and it's very much connected, is to sniff. So this is where you're sort of inhaling through your nose in order to be able to detect the odor or scent. So it might kind of sound like this. You might get close to something and right? You're inhaling through your nose. That's sniff. A third way the verb smell gets used is to mean to detect or suspect something by one's instinct or by one's intuition. So it's sort of having a feeling. Someone might say, oh, the situation smells. They might be thinking something bad is going to happen or something's not right. A fourth way the verb smell gets used is to mean to emit an odor or a scent of a particular kind. So you might hear people say, oh, this candle smells like, and name a pleasant fragrance. Maybe it's lavender or something else like that. A fifth way you'll hear the verb smell used is to mean to have a strong or unpleasant odor. Okay, so this last definition, this is negative, right? All unpleasant, right? Not something that's pleasant. Maybe it makes you feel a little sick because it is so strong. So many times if you hear this smells, it's being used in this sort of negative way. You should know that in the United States, smell is a regular verb. So we tend to make the progressive by just adding ing to form smelling, and then the past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by adding ed. Our base verb, smell, ends in a voiced L sound. So our past tense ending just makes a D sound, and we do not add an extra syllable as we say it. So it should sound like this: smelled, smelled. Now, in other countries that utilize English, particularly like England, I do believe you will hear an irregular form of this verb, smelt, S-M-E-L-T, but it's really not very common to hear that in the United States. And since this is where I live, we're going to use it as a regular verb. Now, let's move on and talk about a few phrasal verbs with smell. The first one we'll discuss is to smell of. This can have a couple different meanings. One just means that something has a particular odor. So, an example of this: the trash smells of rotting banana peels. Okay. There could be rotting banana peels inside the trash can, but it has an odor that is similar to rotting banana peels. A second way to use smell of is to mean that something is suggestive of something, so it's indicating something. An example of this: his behavior smells of dishonesty. So someone is looking at an individual's manner or way that they're acting, and they're like, I don't know, the situation suggests that this person is being dishonest. Another phrasal verb you might hear is to smell out. This can also have a couple different meanings. One would be to locate someone or something using one's sense of smell. And with this first definition for the phrasal verb smell out, many times we use it in connection to animals. And you're going to see that in my example sentence. The police's dogs smelled out the kidnapping victim. So they were able to use their sense of smell and maybe an article of clothing from the victim in order to find or locate the person who had been kidnapped. A second way to use smell out is to mean to uncover, reveal, or expose someone or something through investigation. Okay? So this one, not a literal action that is happening with anyone's nose. An example of this might be, the state auditor has been smelling out fraud in various government departments. So again, an auditor might be someone who investigates, who reveals and exposes their findings, particularly when they're detecting illegal behavior, fraudulent behavior. The last phrasal verb we'll discuss today is to smell up. This meaning here is that a particular place is being filled with a very bad odor. An example sentence for us. Our child's shin guards always smell up the car. And unfortunately, this is a real example from my life. We have a soccer player in the family, which is lovely. But oh man, some days when those shin guards come out right before a game or a practice, it is a very unpleasant odor. Now let's continue using our verb of the day, smell, in a couple different verb tenses. Today we're going to practice the simple past tense and the simple future using will. Let's start with the simple past tense. We use this verb tense to talk about an action that was completed at a known point in the past. And the nice thing about this verb tense is that our structure is going to be the same no matter what our subject is. So we're always going to follow the same pattern. In the affirmative, we're going to have a subject, and then we're going to use our ed form of the verb because this is a regular verb. You can see this in the example. He smelled the baby to see if it was time for a diaper change. If you've been a parent, maybe you've done this where you think, right, that we might be going back to that sniffing, trying to detect, is it time to change the diaper? If I want to make a negative simple past tense sentence, then my structure is going to be to have my subject, then did not, and then the base verb. So we don't use the ed form of the verb in the negative here. An example, the kitchen didn't smell like we had cooked fish the day before. Okay, so here we're saying there is the absence of a particular odor. And if I want to make a yes or no question in the simple past tense, I start with did, then I have my subject, and then the base verb. Here's another example. Did you smell trouble when you arrived? Okay. This question would go back to that definition talking about intuition, sort of a feeling that someone has, okay, in a particular situation. Again, notice with my yes or no question, I didn't use the ed form of the verb. I only use that in the affirmative. Now, let's take a moment to look at the simple future. Today, we're going to focus on making sentences with will. This is really common with promises, with predictions. It might hear people use it with offers or threats. And our structure here in the simple future with will is going to be the same no matter what our subject is. So in the affirmative, we're going to have our subject, we'll have will, and then we'll have the base verb. You can see that in my example. If you sprinkle cinnamon in your carved pumpkin, when you light the candle, it will smell like pumpkin pie. So I heard this sentence today as I was watching a little cooking program. It's nearing Halloween, which is celebrated a great deal here in the United States. And anticipation of that holiday, many people get pumpkins and take out the insides, make little faces or designs, put a candle in as a form of decoration. And the person here was saying add a little bit of cinnamon to it, and it's going to create this more pleasant scent. Now let's look at a negative example in the simple future. To do this, our structure is to have a subject, then will not, and then the base verb. You might hear the contraction won't. Here's an example. Follow this advice and your socks won't smell as bad when you leave the gym. Okay, so again, I borrowed a sentence from an article that was giving advice on how to reduce the bad odors coming from workout or exercise gear. And so really this article is making a bit of a promise. If you do these things, there will not be this bad odor. Finally, if you want to make a yes or no question in the simple future using will, start with that word, then we'll have our subject and then the base verb. An example of this, will others smell the garlic? Right? So here I might be asking someone to make a particular prediction. Now, let's continue practicing and discussing some related words and phrases. So the first word we'll discuss today is just the noun form of this word. So we have the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation. When I use the word smell as a noun, it can have a couple different meanings. One would be able to refer to the ability to perceive odors or sense using your nose. So an example of this might be, his sense of smell hasn't been back to normal since contracting COVID. And I know that's a challenge a number of people have had. Sometimes it's taken many weeks, months, and for some people, I don't know that their ability to perceive odors and scents have returned, unfortunately. A second way you hear the noun smell used is to refer to an odor or a scent. An example of this might be, this cleaner has a citrus smell. So citrus would be orange, lemon, lime, things like that. So here, someone is likely describing the scent because we would tend to think of these as pleasant smells in this example sentence. But a third way you hear this noun used is just to refer to a really unpleasant odor. So an example, right? You might hear someone go, ew, right? That smell is disgusting. So could be any number of things causing the unpleasant odor, but in this set of examples, someone is definitely indicating that the odor is unpleasant. A fourth way to use the noun smell is to refer to the act of inhaling, right? So we might think back to that sniff, right, inhaling through one's nose, in order to determine an odor, a scent, or maybe what's causing it. An example of this, have a smell of these leftovers. Do you think they're okay? I don't know if this happens at all. It's certainly not a scientific process, but after something's been in the refrigerator a few days, you might kind of, no, it's time to go into the compost or the trash because it's no longer good or safe to eat. Now let's continue talking about the adjective smelly. Now, this adjective is always going to have a negative meaning. So it's going to be describing an unpleasant odor or smell. Many times we're using it to say something is strong. So an example of this, take those smelly shoes outside. Let's continue looking at a couple phrases. You might hear someone mentioning smelling the roses. Okay, this is not a literal thing where someone is stopping you to and encouraging you to sniff flowers or inhale near a flower. But instead, someone is encouraging you to kind of enjoy an experience or just enjoy life generally. So many times people are trying to indicate like, slow down, don't be so focused on work or all the things you need to accomplish. So an example of this might be, don't study all the time. Take some time to smell the roses. So here, enjoy other things, right? Don't be too focused and maybe too hard on yourself so that you're missing out on other experiences. The last phrase we'll talk about today is to smell a rat. A rat is a rodent. I didn't include a picture, but feel free to Google it if you need that visual. Again, this is not a literal thing referring to that animal, but it generally means that someone's intuition, kind of a feeling that they have, is a bit suspicious. So they think something bad is happening, something wrong. So an example of this: employees can smell a rat. It's better for managers to just be honest and transparent. I saw a sentence like this that was giving some workplace advice. Sometimes certain supervisors, managers might think, I'm going to lie to my employees in order to get them to perform better or maybe to scare them. In this particular articles, we're saying, no. People can tell. People will be suspicious that you aren't being honest, and they're not going to perform well for you. They can smell a rat. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.